Welcome, Whispering Bee family. Today's story is a reminder that the deepest betrayals do not shatter you, they reshape you. Audrey gave 16 years to a love she believed in, until one choice changed everything. But sometimes losing the wrong person is the only way to find the life you were truly meant to live. Audrey used to say that love was like bread. You had to knead it, wait for it, trust the process. When it rose right, it filled a home with warmth you could feel even before you opened the door. For 16 years, her marriage to Kennedy had felt exactly like that. They had married young, too young, some had whispered, but they proved everyone wrong. Audrey was 22 when she walked down the aisle in a simple ivory dress, her hands shaking with excitement rather than fear. Kennedy was 24, fresh out of flight school, with dreams of flying the world and a promise to always come home to her. In those early years, everything felt possible. Kennedy would return from short regional flights with stories that made Audrey laugh until her sides hurt. She would greet him at the door with flour still dusting her cheeks, having spent the afternoon experimenting with new recipes in their tiny apartment kitchen. They would sit on their second-hand couch, eating whatever she had baked that day, planning the future they would build together. When Audrey became pregnant with Ethan, they moved into a modest two-story house on Maple Street. It had creaky floors and outdated wallpaper, but Kennedy saw potential everywhere. He spent weekends painting nurseries and building cribs while Audrey nested, washing tiny clothes and folding them into drawers with the kind of care that only new mothers understand. Ethan arrived on a Tuesday morning in late September. Kennedy held him first, this tiny, perfect human they had created, and wept openly in a way Audrey had never seen before. He made promises in that hospital room, promises about being present, being faithful, being the kind of father his own dad never was. 2 years later came Ivy, with her serious eyes and quiet disposition. Then Noah, loud and joyful from his first breath. And finally, 7 years ago, Annie arrived, the surprise baby who completed their family in ways they had not known they needed. While Kennedy's career took him higher, literally, Audrey built something just as meaningful on the ground. The bakery started small, just a corner lease in a building that had seen better days. She called it Honeycomb, and it opened on a rainy March morning with exactly 12 customers. But word spread. Her golden honey lavender brioche became legendary in their town. People would line up before dawn on weekends, hopping to get a loaf before they sold out. The bread was special because Audrey made it with intention. Real honey from local beekeepers. Lavender she grew herself in pots behind the shop. Each loaf was hand-shaped, given time to rise properly, baked until the crust turned that perfect golden shade. The bakery became more than a business. It became a gathering place. Mothers brought their children after school. Elderly couples shared pastries over morning coffee. Audrey knew everyone's names, their orders, their stories. She remembered birthdays and anniversaries, always setting aside something special. Her days began at 4 in the morning. She would slip out of bed while Kennedy snored softly, dress in the dark, and drive through empty streets to the bakery. There was something sacred about those quiet hours, just her and the dough, the rhythmic kneading that felt like meditation. By the time Kennedy woke, she would already have 3 batches in the oven. He would get the kids ready for school, a routine they had perfected over the years. Ethan, responsible even at 15, helped pack lunches. Ivy made sure everyone had their homework. Noah entertained Annie while Kennedy ironed his pilot's uniform. They were a team, or so Audrey believed. From the outside, they were perfect. The house on Maple Street was always filled with noise and life. There were family dinners every Sunday, homework scattered across the kitchen table, bike rides through the neighborhood on summer evenings. Kennedy coached Noah's soccer team. Audrey volunteered at Annie's school. They attended PTA meetings and school plays and everything good parents were supposed to do. But underneath, something had shifted. Audrey felt it first about 2 years ago, though she could not name it then. Kennedy became distant in small ways. He stopped asking about her day. When she talked about the bakery, his eyes would glaze over, his attention somewhere else. He began picking up extra flights, volunteering for routes he used to avoid. When Audrey mentioned it, Kennedy dismissed her concerns. He was building their future, he said. The extra money would pay for college funds, maybe a bigger house. She wanted to believe him, so she pushed down the unease and kept kneading her bread. The cracks had already begun. It started the way these things often do, quietly, almost invisibly. Marie was a flight attendant on Kennedy's long-haul international routes. She was 31, beautiful in that effortless way some women possess, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that seemed to see right through people. Where Audrey was soft edges and comfortable silence, Marie was all angles and electric energy. Their first real conversation happened on a flight to Paris. Kennedy was doing his pre-flight checks when Marie approached him in the cockpit. "Captain," she said, her voice smooth as expensive wine. "The passenger in 4A is asking about turbulence. He seems nervous." Kennedy glanced back at her. He had seen her before on various flights but had never paid much attention. Now, in the close quarters of the cockpit, he noticed things. The way her uniform fit perfectly. The slight accent in her voice, French maybe, or Belgian. "Tell him we're expecting smooth skis all the way to Charles de Gaulle," Kennedy replied, professional, nothing more. But Marie lingered. "You have kind eyes," she said suddenly. "That helps. Nervous passengers trust kind eyes." It was such a small thing. A compliment barely worth remembering. But Kennedy felt something stir, a flutter of attention he had not experienced in years. He was just another tired pilot to most people, invisible in his uniform. But Marie had seen him. Over the next few months, they were assigned to the same flights more frequently. Pure coincidence, or so Kennedy told himself. Marie would bring him coffee during long flights, made exactly how he liked it without him ever having to ask. They talked during layovers in distant cities. Just friendly conversation at first. She told him about growing up in Brussels, how she had wanted to be a dancer but injured her knee at 19. How flight attending was her second choice, but she had learned to love the freedom of it, never staying anywhere too long. Kennedy told her about his early flying days, the close calls he rarely mentioned to Audrey because they would only worry her. Marie listened with her entire body, leaning in, laughing at his stories, making him feel fascinating. "Your wife is lucky," Marie said one evening in a hotel bar in London. They had finished a 14-hour flight and the crew had gathered for drinks. Kennedy was nursing a whiskey, Marie a glass of red wine. "Why do you say that?" Kennedy asked. "Because you are different from most pilots. You actually care about people, most just care about flying." Kennedy shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "I have a family, 4 kids, they keep me grounded." "4," Marie's eyes widened. "And you still look this good. Your wife must feed you well." There it was, the slightest edge of flirtation, easy to dismiss if he wanted to. Kennedy could have changed the subject, excused himself, maintained the boundary. Instead, he smiled. "She's a baker, best bread you'll ever taste." "I would love to try it someday," Marie said, and her eyes held his for a moment too long. That night in his hotel room, Kennedy told himself nothing had happened. They were just colleagues being friendly. But he also did not call Audrey before bed like he usually did. He told himself the time difference made it complicated, but the truth was simpler. He did not want to hear her voice while Marie's perfume still lingered in his memory. The affair did not begin with passion. It began with permission. Small permissions Kennedy gave himself, little by little. Permission to text Marie on days off, just to check in. Permission to meet her for coffee during layovers, just the two of them. Permission to complain about his marriage, about how Audrey did not understand the stress of his job anymore, how they had grown into different people. Marie listened to everything. She never judged. She made him feel understood in ways he had forgotten were possible, and slowly. So slowly Kennedy did not notice the crossing. Friendship became something else. It happened in Amsterdam, 6 months after that first conversation in the cockpit. The crew had scattered after landing, everyone exhausted and ready for their hotel beds. But Marie invited Kennedy to walk through the city with her. Just a walk, she said, to clear their heads. They wandered through narrow streets lit by warm lamplight, past canals that reflected the moon. Marie slipped her arm through his as they walked, casual, friendly, but Kennedy felt the weight of it, the intentionality. "Are you happy?" Marie asked suddenly. Kennedy stopped walking. "What kind of question is that?" "An honest one." She turned to face him. "You talk about your family, your wife, your bakery, but you never talk about yourself. Are you happy, Kennedy?" He wanted to say yes. He wanted to defend his life, his choices, his marriage. But standing there in a foreign city with a beautiful woman who made him feel seen, the truth came out instead. "I don't know anymore." Marie stepped closer. "You deserve to know. You deserve to feel alive." When she kissed him, Kennedy did not pull away. He kissed her back, and in that moment, 16 years of marriage ended. Not officially, not yet. But the real ending started there, on a bridge in Amsterdam, while back home Audrey was probably putting Annie to bed, completely unaware that her world had just shifted. The affair stretched on for months. Kennedy became an expert at deception. He learned to delete messages immediately. He memorized Marie's schedule so he could call her when Audrey was busy at the bakery. He volunteered for flights he knew Marie would be working. At home, he played the role of husband and father convincingly enough. He asked about homework and fixed leaky faucets and showed up to soccer games. But he was only half present, his mind always partly elsewhere, with someone else. Audrey noticed, of course. Wives always do. But she rationalized every sign. When Kennedy's phone buzzed at odd hours, she told herself it was work. When he became defensive about small things, she blamed stress. When their intimacy dwindled to almost nothing, she thought it was just the natural progression of a long marriage. She never suspected another woman because Kennedy had never been that kind of man, or so she thought. The children sensed something too, in the way children always sense tension even when adults try to hide it. Ethan became quieter, watching his father with questions in his eyes he did not know how to ask. Ivy spent more time at the bakery with Audrey, seeking comfort in her mother's presence. Noah acted out at school, his anger finding targets everywhere. Only Annie remained blissfully unaware, still young enough to believe her family was unbreakable. Kennedy told himself he would end it. He made plans to break things off with Marie, to recommit to his family. But every time he saw her, those plans dissolved. She made him feel young again, exciting, like his life still held surprises. Marie never pushed him to leave Audrey. In fact, she claimed she did not want that kind of commitment. "I like my freedom," she would say. "I like us exactly as we are." But her actions told a different story. She began calling more frequently, expecting him to answer. She wanted to know his schedule, his whereabouts. She started talking about the future in subtle ways, testing to see if he could imagine a life with her. And Kennedy, flattered and foolish, began to imagine it. A life without obligations, without the weight of 16 years pressing down on him. A life where he could be someone new. The end of the secret came on a Tuesday afternoon in late October. Audrey was at the bakery, training a new employee on how to properly fold croissant dough when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost did not answer, but something made her pick up. "Is this Audrey?" A woman's voice shaking. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Rachel. I'm a flight attendant. I work with your husband." Audrey's hands went cold. "Okay." "I'm sorry to call you like this. I debated for weeks whether I should. But if I were you, I would want to know." The rest of the conversation lasted less than 3 minutes. Rachel told her about Kennedy and Marie, about the hotels, the lies, the months of deception. She had proof, she said. Photos taken by other crew members who felt uncomfortable with how blatant the affair had become. Rachel sent them to Audrey's phone. Pictures of Kennedy and Marie holding hands in a Paris cafe, kissing outside a hotel in Tokyo, looking at each other the way Kennedy used to look at Audrey, back when they were young and everything was still possible. Audrey thanked Rachel, hung up, and walked calmly to the bakery bathroom. She locked the door, sat on the closed toilet seat, and stared at the photos until they blurred. She did not scream, did not throw her phone, did not cry, not yet. The tears would come later in waves that would knock her down when she least expected them. But in that moment, she just felt hollow. Everything made sense now. The distance, the late nights, the way Kennedy flinched when she touched him unexpectedly. She had been living with a ghost of her marriage, and she had not even known it. When Kennedy came home that evening, Audrey was sitting at the kitchen table. The house was quiet. She had sent the children to her mother's, telling them it was a special sleepover. "We need to talk," she said. Kennedy saw the look on her face and knew, just knew. The relief he felt in that moment shamed him, but it was there nonetheless. He was tired of lying. "Audrey, I can explain." "Can you?" Her voice was eerily calm. "Can you explain why you destroyed our family? Why you looked me in the eye every day and lied? Why you made vows you had no intention of keeping?" Kennedy sat down across from her. "I never meant for this to happen." "But it did happen. For months. While I was here raising our children, building our life, trusting you completely." "I'm sorry." The words felt pathetically small. "Sorry," Audrey's voice finally cracked. "You're sorry. Do you have any idea what you've done? Those 4 children, they worship you. And you traded them for what? For someone who makes you feel young." Kennedy had no defense. Every word Audrey spoke was true. "I want you to leave," Audrey said. "Tonight, pack a bag and go, I don't care where." "Audrey, please, we can work through this." She laughed, a bitter sound. "Work through this? You made your choice, Kennedy, you chose her, so go be with her, but you don't get to keep us too." Kennedy left that night. He packed quickly, throwing clothes into a suitcase while Audrey sat downstairs in the dark. When he came down, he tried one more time. "I love you. I know I have no right to say that, but I do." Audrey looked at him like he was a stranger. "You don't know what love is. Love doesn't do this." Kennedy moved into Marie's apartment that night. She lived in a sleek high-rise downtown, all glass and steel and modern furniture that looked expensive but felt cold. Her place was the opposite of the house on Maple Street. No toys scattered around, no family photos, no signs of life really lived. Just surfaces, clean and untouched. Marie was thrilled when Kennedy showed up with his suitcase. She had been wanting this, she admitted, wanting him all to herself. They could finally be together properly, she said. No more sneaking around. For the first week, it felt like victory. They stayed up late talking, slept in on his days off, had the kind of passionate reunion that affairs promise. Marie cooked elaborate dinners, though Kennedy noticed she mostly pushed food around her plate. She was not used to domestic life, to the routine of it. But slowly, reality crept in. Kennedy had to tell the children. That conversation happened on a Saturday morning at a diner halfway between his new apartment and the house. Audrey brought them, her face carefully neutral, and then left Kennedy alone with the 4 of them. Ethan sat stiff and silent, his jaw clenched. Ivy cried immediately, even before Kennedy finished explaining. Noah shook his head over and over, refusing to believe it. And Annie, sweet 7-year-old Annie, asked the question that broke Kennedy's heart. "Don't you love us anymore, Daddy?" "Of course I love you," Kennedy said, reaching for her hand. "This has nothing to do with you." "Then why are you leaving?" she asked, and Kennedy had no answer that would make sense to a child. Ethan stood up abruptly. "Let's go, I can't listen to this." "Ethan, please," Kennedy started. "You made your choice, Dad. Live with it." Ethan walked out and the others followed. Noah wouldn't even look at Kennedy. Ivy turned back once, her face streaked with tears, but then she left too. Annie was the last. And she said something that would haunt Kennedy for years. "Mommy said you're still our daddy, but I don't think you want to be anymore." After that, the children stopped answering his calls, stopped responding to his texts. When he showed up at the house, Audrey would politely tell him they were not ready to see him. He had visitation rights legally, but his children had emotional rights too, and they exercised them by choosing absence. At the apartment, Marie grew restless. She was used to the excitement of an affair, not the mundane reality of living with someone. Kennedy left socks on the floor. He snored. He talked about his children constantly, which made Marie uncomfortable. "You need to move on," she told him one evening. "They'll come around eventually, but obsessing over them won't help." Kennedy stared at her. "They're my children." "And I'm your partner now. You have to choose where to put your energy." It was the first time Kennedy saw Marie clearly, really saw her. She was not capable of understanding what he had given up. To her, this was a romance, an adventure. She had no concept of what it meant to be a parent, to have built a life brick by brick and then demolished it. The relationship began to fracture. Small arguments turned into big ones. Marie hated that Kennedy was still financially supporting Audrey and the children. Kennedy hated that Marie expected him to simply forget his family existed. 6 months into their new life together, Kennedy was driving home from the airport after a long-haul flight. It was late, nearly midnight, and rain was coming down in sheets. He was exhausted, his mind fuzzy from lack of sleep. He had fought with Marie before he left, and they had not spoken in 3 days. His phone buzzed. A text from Marie. "We need to talk when you get home." Kennedy glanced down to read it. Just a glance, 2 seconds at most. When he looked up, there was a car stopped in front of him. He slammed on his brakes, but the wet roads gave him no traction. The impact happened in slow motion and all at once. Metal screeching, glass shattering, his body thrown forward against the seatbelt. Pain exploded in his chest, his left leg, his head. Then darkness. Kennedy woke up 2 days later in a hospital bed. Everything hurt. A doctor explained that he had 3 broken ribs, a shattered femur, a severe concussion, and internal bleeding that they had managed to stop. He was lucky to be alive. Marie was there when he first opened his eyes. She smiled, relief evident on her face. "You scared me," she said. For the first 3 days, Marie visited every day. She brought him magazines and talked about her flights, though Kennedy was too drugged to follow most of what she said. She did not like hospitals, she mentioned several times. The smell bothered her, the sounds of suffering. On the 4th day, she did not come. Kennedy waited, watching the door, but she never appeared. He texted her. No response. On the 5th day, he called. She answered, but her voice was different, distant. "I can't do this, Kennedy," she said without preamble. "Do what?" "This, you, the hospital, the responsibility. This wasn't what I signed up for." Kennedy felt something cold settle in his chest. "I was in a car accident, Marie. I'm hurt." "I know, and I'm sorry, but I'm not a nurse. I'm not built for this kind of thing. I need my freedom. I thought you understood that about me." "So you're just leaving, while I'm in a hospital bed?" Marie sighed, annoyed. "Don't be dramatic. You'll be fine. You have insurance, you have doctors. You don't need me sitting here watching you sleep." "What about us?" "There is no us anymore. I think we both knew this wasn't going to last. It was fun while it lasted, Kennedy, but this is too much. I'm sorry." She hung up. Kennedy called back twice, but she did not answer. By evening, he received a text. "I've packed your things. They're in storage unit 247 at Public Storage on 5th Avenue. The key is with the building manager. I wish you well." That was it. 6 months of relationship ended with a storage unit number. Kennedy lay in that hospital bed, alone, and finally understood what he had done. He had traded a woman who would have walked through fire for him for a woman who could not even sit in a hospital room. The nurses noticed he had no visitors. They were kind but pitying. When his surgeon asked who would be helping him with recovery at home, Kennedy had no answer. That evening, his phone rang. Audrey's name appeared on the screen. Kennedy stared at it for 3 rings before answering. "Hello." "Kennedy," her voice was careful, controlled. "I heard about the accident. Are you okay?" "Who told you?" "Your mother called me. She's in Florida and can't get away. She asked if I could check on you." Of course his mother had called Audrey. Even after everything, his family still saw her as his person. "I'm alive," Kennedy said. "Broken, but alive." Silence on the line. Then Audrey said something that shocked him. "Do you have someone to help you when you're discharged?" Kennedy almost lied. Pride nearly made him say yes, that he was fine, that Marie was handling everything. But he was so tired of lying. "No," Marie left. "I see." Audrey's voice gave nothing away. "When are they releasing you?" "Tomorrow, if I have somewhere to go, but I'll figure something out." "I'll be there at 10, Audrey said and hung up before Kennedy could respond. She arrived exactly at 10, wearing jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back the way she always wore it when she had work to do. She did not hug Kennedy, did not ask how he was feeling beyond the medical basics. She simply spoke with his doctors, signed the necessary paperwork, and helped him into her car. "I'm taking you to your apartment," she said as she drove. "I'll get you settled and make sure you have what you need." "Audrey, you don't have to do this." "I know I don't have to. I'm choosing to. There's a difference." At the apartment, the building manager gave Audrey the key to the storage unit. Together, they retrieved Kennedy's belongings, everything he owned packed into boxes by a woman who could not wait to erase him from her life. The apartment itself was empty. Marie had moved out completely, probably the day after she decided to leave him. Audrey helped Kennedy inside, set him up on the couch with pillows supporting his broken leg, made sure he had water and pain medication within reach. "I'll come by tomorrow to check on you," she said. "I'll bring food." "Why are you doing this?" Kennedy asked. "After everything I did." Audrey looked at him for a long moment. "Because you're the father of my children. Because once, a very long time ago, I loved you enough to build a life. Because this is who I am, Kennedy. I show up, even when it hurts, even when I don't want to." She paused at the door. "But don't mistake this for forgiveness. I'm here because it's the right thing to do, not because I want you back." For the next 6 weeks, Audrey came every day. She brought meals she had prepared at home. She helped him to physical therapy appointments. She changed bandages and picked up prescriptions and did all the invisible work that recovery requires. But she never stayed longer than necessary. Never sat down for coffee, never asked about his life or his feelings. She was efficient, kind even, but distant in a way that hurt worse than if she had been angry. Kennedy watched her move through his space, this woman he had shared a bed with for 16 years, and she was a stranger now. He had made her a stranger. His children never visited. Ethan refused outright. The others, Audrey said, were not ready. Kennedy did not push. He had no right to push. During those weeks, Kennedy had a lot of time to think. Lying on that couch, unable to work, unable to do much of anything, he reviewed his life like a film reel. He saw all the moments he had taken for granted. Ethan's first soccer goal, Ivy's piano recitals, Noah's terrible jokes at dinner, Annie learning to read, sounding out words with her small finger tracing the lines. He remembered Audrey in the early days, how she would wait up for him no matter how late his flight landed. How she knew he liked his coffee with just a splash of milk, that he hated mushrooms but loved peppers, that he needed silence for 30 minutes when he first woke up. He remembered their wedding day, how Audrey had written her own vows and cried while reading them, how she had promised to be his home, no matter where he flew. And he had thrown it all away for what? For excitement, for validation, for the temporary high of feeling wanted by someone new. Marie had not even lasted through one crisis. She had evaporated the moment things got difficult, while Audrey, the woman he had betrayed in the worst possible way, showed up every single day. When Kennedy could finally walk with crutches, when he no longer needed daily help, Audrey stopped coming. Her last visit was brief. "You're healing well," she said. "You don't need me anymore." "Audrey, I need to say something." She held up a hand. "You don't need to say anything. We're past that." "Please, just let me say this." Kennedy took a breath. "I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I need you to know that I see it now. What I had. What I destroyed. You are the best person I've ever known, and I didn't deserve you." Audrey's eyes were dry. She had cried all her tears already, months ago. "You're right. You didn't deserve me. But I didn't deserve what you did to me either. We both suffered from your choices, Kennedy." "Can we try again?" The question came out before Kennedy could stop it. "I know it sounds crazy, but I want to fix this. I want to be the man you married." "No," Audrey did not hesitate. "That man is gone, and honestly, I don't think he ever really existed. I think I married a fantasy, and you showed me the reality." "Audrey, please. I took care of you because it was the right thing to do. Because that's what we teach our children, to help people even when they've hurt us. But what we had, Kennedy, you ended that. You ended it the first time you lied to me. The first time you touched her, you ended it and there's no going back. She moved toward the door, then stopped. I'm filing for divorce. My lawyer will be in touch. And she left. Kennedy called after her, but she did not turn back. The divorce proceedings were swift and businesslike. Audrey did not ask for revenge, did not try to punish him financially. She asked for the house, primary custody of the children, and child support calculated exactly to the legal guidelines. Kennedy's lawyer said he was getting off easy. Kennedy knew he was getting exactly what he deserved. The children could choose to see him, the custody agreement stated, but they were old enough to make their own decisions. Ethan never chose to visit. Ivy came once every few months, awkward lunches where they both pretended things were normal. Noah came around eventually, but the easy affection they once had was gone. Annie still loved him, but even she was different, more guarded, less willing to trust. Kennedy returned to flying when he was medically cleared. From the outside, his life looked successful again. Uniform pressed. Salary intact. He moved to an even bigger apartment downtown, all floor-to-ceiling windows and modern appliances. But every time he came home, the silence was deafening. No laughter echoing from upstairs. No arguments about homework. No tiny footsteps running to greet him. Just space and regret and the crushing weight of his own choices. He dated occasionally, but nothing stuck. Every woman he met was compared to Audrey and found wanting, or compared to Marie and triggering his shame. He was stuck between the woman he had lost and the woman who had exposed his worst self. At work, his colleagues noticed he was quieter. He stopped joining them for drinks after flights. He became known as reliable but lonely, competent but sad. His captain's log was flawless, but his life was empty. Meanwhile, across town, Audrey's life began to slowly bloom again. The first few months after Kennedy left were brutal. Audrey cried herself to sleep most nights, her pillow muffling the sounds so the children would not hear. She lost weight, not from trying but from forgetting to eat, her appetite disappearing along with her sense of security. The bakery became both her refuge and her burden. She threw herself into work, arriving even earlier, staying even later. Her hands knew what to do even when her mind was chaos. Knead, fold, proof, bake. The rhythm was soothing. But running a business while single-parenting 4 children was overwhelming. Ethan stepped up in ways that broke her heart, becoming the man of the house at 15, helping with his siblings, taking on responsibilities no teenager should have to carry. Ivy became her shadow, afraid to let her mother out of sight. Noah's anger manifested in fights at school, suspended twice in 3 months. Annie regressed, needing to sleep in Audrey's bed most nights, afraid her mother would disappear too. Audrey's best friend Julia finally intervened. "You need help," Julia said one evening, finding Audrey crying in the bakery after closing. "You can't do this alone." "I have to," Audrey said. "I'm all they have now." "That's exactly why you need support. You're running on empty, Audrey. What happens when you break down?" Julia connected Audrey with a therapist, Dr. Angela River, who specialized in betrayal trauma. The first session was hard. Audrey had to say out loud all the things she had been trying not to think about. The humiliation, the anger, the grief for the life she thought she had. "You're mourning," Dr. River said. "Not just the end of your marriage, but the death of the story you believed about your life. That's profound loss." Audrey also joined a support group at her church, a gathering of people navigating divorce and betrayal. Hearing other people's stories helped her feel less alone. A woman named Patricia, whose husband had left her after 23 years, became a particular friend. "It gets better," Patricia promised. "Not all at once, but slowly you'll find pieces of yourself you forgot existed." The children started therapy too. Dr. River recommended a family therapist who could work with them individually and together. It was not easy. There were sessions where Noah screamed about how much he hated his father. Sessions where Ivy sobbed about feeling abandoned. Sessions where Ethan's careful control finally cracked and he admitted he felt responsible for holding everyone together. But slowly, painfully, they began to heal. They learned to talk about their feelings instead of hiding them. They learned that their family was different now but still whole. That love was not about perfect circumstances, but about showing up for each other. Audrey made their home warm again, not in the same way as before, but in a new way that felt more authentic. She established new traditions. Friday movie nights where everyone picked a film from a hat. Saturday morning pancakes where each person got to design their own ridiculous flavor combination. Sunday dinners around the table where they practiced gratitude, nomming one good thing from their week. The house on Maple Street slowly transformed. Audrey repainted the living room a soft sage green, erasing the color she and Kennedy had chosen together. She rearranged furniture, creating new configurations that did not remind her of the old life. She planted a garden in the backyard, something she had always wanted to do but never had time for. The bakery thrived in unexpected ways. Audrey hired 2 full-time employees, finally acknowledging she could not do everything herself. She introduced new items, experimenting with flavors and techniques she had been too afraid to try before. Her creativity, no longer channeled into maintaining a marriage, poured into her work. Customers noticed the change. The bakery had always been good, but now it was exceptional. Audrey's pain had somehow refined her craft, adding depth to everything she made. A food blogger discovered honeycomb and wrote a glowing review that went viral. Suddenly, people were driving from neighboring towns just to try the legendary brioche. Audrey had to hire more staff, expand her hours, consider a second location. Success came, not because she was trying to prove anything to Kennedy, but because she had finally stopped dividing her attention between someone who did not value it and the work that did. 1 year after the divorce was finalized, Audrey woke up and realized she had gone a full week without crying. Small victory, but significant. She was learning to be whole on her own. She started doing things for herself. She took a pottery class on Tuesday evenings, leaving Ethan in charge at home. She joined a book club with Julia and other women from church. She went to movies alone and discovered she actually enjoyed it, choosing what she wanted to see without compromise. Her relationship with her children deepened. Ethan, seeing his mother heal, began to soften some of his own hardened edges. Ivy started bringing her artwork to show Audrey, tentative at first, then with growing confidence. Noah's anger cooled into something more manageable, redirected into sports and music. Annie, resilient in the way young children can be, laughed more easily again. They were okay, not perfect, but genuinely okay. Their home became a place of peace rather than performance. It was on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, nearly 3 years after her divorce. Morris Laurent walked into her bakery. Audrey was behind the counter, helping a customer choose between the almond croissants and the pain au chocolat when she noticed him. He was tall, probably in his late 40s, with silver threading through dark hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He stood patiently in line, looking around the bakery with genuine interest, studying the exposed brick walls and the hand-painted menu board. When he reached the counter, he smiled. "Do you have the golden honey lavender brioche?" he asked. His voice carried a slight accent, French maybe. "I do," Audrey said. "How many would you like?" "Just one, please. Though if it's as good as I've heard, I suspect I'll be back for more." Audrey wrapped the bread carefully, noticing his hands as he paid. They were elegant, with long fingers that looked like they created things. An artist's hands, maybe, or a musician's. "Thank you," he said, and something about the way he said it with complete presence made Audrey look up and really see him. Morris came back the next day, and the day after that. By the end of the week, Audrey recognized him as soon as he walked in. He always bought the brioche, always thanked her with that same genuine warmth. On his 7th visit, he ordered a coffee too and asked if he could sit at one of the small tables by the window. "Of course," Audrey said. "Stay as long as you like." He pulled out a sketchbook and began drawing, and Audrey found herself curious. During a lull in customers, she approached his table. "What are you working on?" she asked. Morris looked up, seeming pleased by her interest. "Just sketches. I'm an architect, or I was. Now I mostly just draw for pleasure." "May I see?" He turned the sketchbook toward her. The page was filled with drawings of the bakery's interior, the details rendered with remarkable skill. He had captured the way light fell through the front windows, the texture of the brick, even the curve of the vintage espresso machine. "This is beautiful," Audrey said, genuinely impressed. "Beautiful space," Morris replied. "It has soul. Most modern commercial spaces don't. They're all glass and efficiency. But this place, it has warmth. You can tell someone cares about it." Audrey felt herself smile. "I do care. This place saved me in a way." She had not meant to say something so personal. But Morris's expression held no judgment, only gentle curiosity. "Spaces have that power," he said. "They can heal us or harm us. Yours heals." After that day, Morris became a regular fixture at Honeycomb. He would arrive mid-afternoon, after the lunch rush but before closing, and sit at his table by the window. Always with his sketchbook, always ordering the brioche and coffee, always quietly present. Audrey found herself looking forward to his visits. He was easy company, never demanding her attention but always offering a warm smile when she passed. Sometimes they would chat briefly about small things. The weather, the neighborhood, the customers who came through. But often they just existed in comfortable silence, Morris drawing while Audrey worked. The children noticed him first. Noah, who sometimes stopped by the bakery after school, pointed him out to Audrey one day. "Who's the old guy who's always drawing?" he asked. "He's not old, he's maybe 50, Audrey said. "And his name is Morris, he's an architect." "He's always looking at you," Noah observed with the blunt honesty of a 13-year-old. Audrey felt her face warm. "He is not." "He totally is, Mom. Not in a creepy way, in like a nice way." Ivy met Morris a week later when she came to help Audrey close up shop. Morris was just packing up his things when Ivy arrived. "You must be Ivy," Morris said, extending his hand. "Your mother has told me about your art." Ivy shook his hand shyly. "She talks about me." "Of course, she's very proud of you." Morris showed Ivy some of his sketches, and they fell into easy conversation about technique and materials. Audrey watched, surprised by how natural it felt, Morris interacting with her daughter. As weeks turned into months, Morris slowly became part of their world. Not intrusively, but organically. He offered to help Audrey fix a broken cabinet. He brought Ivy a set of professional pencils when he learned she was serious about drawing. He taught Noah about perspective when Noah mentioned his school art project. Audrey realized she was falling for him gradually, the way you notice seasons changing. There was no dramatic moment, no lightning strike. Just a slow accumulation of small kindnesses, genuine attention, and comfortable companionship. Morris asked her to dinner on a rainy evening in November. They had been talking about a new restaurant that had opened downtown when he paused and said, "Would you like to go there with me? As a date, I mean, not just as friends." Audrey's first instinct was panic. She had not been on a date in over 20 years. She was a 41-year-old mother of 4 with stretch marks and baker's hands and a broken marriage behind her. But then she looked at Morris, at his kind eyes and patient smile, and she thought about how he had never rushed her, never expected anything, just showed up day after day with quiet consistency. "I would like that," she said. The dinner was easy and comfortable. Morris told her about his life, how he had been a successful architect in Paris, designing museums and cultural centers that people traveled to see. How he had met his wife, Claire, at a gallery opening, and how they had been married for 18 years before cancer took her. "It's been 5 years now since she passed," Morris said. "I thought I would never feel alive again. I sold my firm, left Paris, just wandered for a while, trying to outrun the grief, I suppose." "Did it work?" Audrey asked gently. "No, grief doesn't work that way. But the wandering helped me understand something. That life continues even after loss. That beauty still exists even when you think you'll never see it again." "What brought you here?" Audrey asked. "To our town." Morris smiled. "Honestly, I was driving through, heading nowhere particular when I smelled your bakery. The bread reminded me of a patisserie near my childhood home in Lyon. I stopped for what I thought would be 5 minutes, and then I saw you." "Saw me?" "Saw how you moved through your space. How you greeted everyone with real warmth. How you touched your bread like it mattered. I wanted to understand what created that kind of presence, so I stayed. Audrey felt her eyes sting with unexpected tears. I was so broken when you met me. You were healing, Morris corrected gently. There's a difference. Broken things stay still. Healing things grow. You were growing. Their relationship unfolded slowly, with the kind of intention that only people who have been hurt deeply can manage. Morris never pushed. He understood that Audrey had 4 children who would always come first, and he respected that boundary completely. He met them officially about 2 months into their relationship. Audrey invited him to Sunday dinner, her stomach in knots with nervousness. Ethan was now 18 and protective of his mother. Ivy was 16 and skeptical of any man who showed interest. Noah was 13 and testing. Only Annie, now 10, was openly excited about meeting Mom's friend. Morris brought flowers for Audrey and books for each of the children, carefully chosen based on what he had learned about their interests. For Ethan, a book about aerospace engineering. For Ivy, a beautiful volume about architectural sketching. For Noah, a biography of a famous soccer player. For Annie, an illustrated story about a girl who builds a magical treehouse. Dinner was awkward at first. Ethan asked pointed questions about Morris's intentions. Ivy watched him with careful eyes. Noah tested him with inappropriate jokes, but Morris handled it all with grace and honesty. I care about your mother very much, he said when Ethan asked directly. And I understand that you 4 are the most important people in her life. I'm not trying to replace anyone. I'm just hoping to add something good if you'll let me. Our dad already tried to replace us, Noah said, his voice hard. Didn't work out so well for him. I'm sorry that happened to you, Morris said, and his voice held real sadness. Families are precious. They should be protected, not abandoned. I lost my own family when my wife died. I know what it feels like when that safety is broken. Something in his honesty reached them. The evening did not end with everyone best friends, but it ended with cautious acceptance. Over the following year, Morris proved himself through action. He showed up to Noah's soccer games and cheered from the sidelines. He asked Ivy thoughtful questions about her artwork and actually listened to the answers. He helped Ethan with college applications without being asked. He played endless card games with Annie and never let her win, which she appreciated more than condescension. Most importantly, he loved their mother in a way they could see. He looked at Audrey like she was remarkable. He helped with dishes after dinner. He fixed things around the house without making a big deal about it. He made her laugh in ways they had not heard in years. Audrey bloomed under his attention. She started dressing in colors again instead of just neutrals. She wore her hair down more often. She hummed while she worked. The tightness that had lived in her shoulders for years began to ease. Morris and Audrey traveled together when the kids were with friends or at their various activities. Weekend trips to the coast, a week in Montreal, a long weekend in New Mexico. They talked about everything and nothing. They were quiet together without it being heavy. They made love with tenderness and passion, and Audrey discovered her body could feel joy again. But Morris also understood space. He kept his own apartment, not moving in with Audrey because he knew the kids needed their home to be stable and predictable. He was part of their lives, but not consuming them. In the 3rd year of their relationship, Morris did something unexpected. He designed something for Audrey. He had been sketching in secret for months, refining an idea. On Audrey's 44th birthday, he presented her with a set of architectural drawings. "What is this?" Audrey asked, studying the beautiful renderings. "A second location for Honeycomb," Morris said. "If you want it, I know you've been thinking about expansion. I designed a space that would honor what you've built while giving you room to grow." The drawings showed a larger bakery with an open kitchen so customers could watch the bread being made. A community table for gatherings. A teaching space for baking classes. Large windows that would flood the space with light. It was beautiful and practical and so thoughtfully designed that Audrey started crying. "You did this for me," she whispered. "I did this with you in mind," Morris said. "But the choice is always yours. I just wanted you to see what could be possible." Audrey looked at the drawings, then at Morris, then back at the drawings. She thought about how far she had come from that day in the bathroom of her old bakery, looking at photos of her husband with another woman. She thought about all the nights she cried herself to sleep, convinced her life was over. And here she was, 3 years later, looking at architectural drawings for her dream bakery, created by a man who saw her potential and wanted to help her reach it. "I want to build it," she said, "with you." They broke ground on the new honeycomb location 6 months later. The whole family participated in the groundbreaking ceremony. Ethan, now in college studying engineering, used his technical knowledge to help plan the construction. Ivy designed a mural for one wall. Noah insisted on being part of the construction crew during his summer break. Annie picked out the paint colors. The new bakery opened on a bright Saturday morning in early May. The lines stretched around the block. Morris had invited food critics and local press. Audrey's original customers mixed with new faces drawn by the buzz. At the end of that exhausting, exhilarating day, Audrey stood in the middle of her beautiful new space, surrounded by her children and Morris, and felt something she had not felt in years: complete. Not complete because a man loved her, though Morris's love was a gift. Complete because she had taken her broken pieces and built something new, because she had chosen to heal instead of harden, because she had let love in again, carefully and on her own terms. That evening, as Morris walked Audrey to her car, he stopped and took her hands. "I have something to ask you," he said. Audrey's heart jumped. "Okay. Would you like to build a life with me? Not just a bakery, a life. I know it's complicated with the children with our pasts, but I love you, Audrey, and I think together we could create something beautiful." Audrey did not answer right away. She thought about Kennedy, who had asked her to marry him 21 years ago with grand promises and elaborate plans. She thought about how those promises had crumbled, how she had learned that words were easy, but action was everything. She looked at Morris, this man who had shown up day after day for 3 years, who had earned the trust of her children, who had helped her build her dreams without trying to control them, who had loved her patiently while she learned to trust again. This time, love was not rushed. It was not blind. It was chosen, carefully. She smiled, tears in her eyes. Yes. Across town, Kennedy was preparing for another week of flights. His apartment was clean, organized, and utterly lonely. He had heard about the new bakery opening through mutual acquaintances. He had heard that Audrey was seeing someone good, people said, someone who treated her right. Kennedy wanted to feel happy for her. He tried to convince himself he was happy for her. But mostly, he felt the crushing weight of all he had lost. He had congratulated Audrey when she told him about Morris, his voice steady even as his heart shattered. "He sounds like a good man," Kennedy had said. "He is," Audrey replied simply, without elaboration. Kennedy maintained his relationship with the children as best he could. Ethan was polite but distant. Ivy visited occasionally, but talked mostly about surface things. Noah had softened some, but would never fully trust him again. Annie loved him still, but even her affection was tempered with caution. They were his children, but he was no longer their center. Morris had not replaced him, exactly, but he had filled spaces Kennedy had abandoned. He went to their games and recitals. He helped with homework and life advice. He was present in all the ways Kennedy had stopped being long before he ever left. That night, Kennedy stood at his floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at a city full of lights and people and life happening all around him. His apartment was bigger than the house on Maple Street. His view was objectively better. Everything in his space was exactly how he wanted it. But it was so quiet he could hear his own heartbeat. He thought about Marie sometimes, wondered where she was, if she ever thought about him. Probably not. She had moved on the moment things got hard. That was who she was, and he had convinced himself it was what he wanted. He thought about the affair, how exciting it had felt, how alive. But excitement fades. Novelty wears off. And what you are left with is the truth of who someone is when life gets difficult. Kennedy finally understood what he had lost. Not just a wife, though that was part of it. He had lost a home, a real home built on years of shared history and mutual care. He had lost the daily joy of children who loved him without question. He had lost Sunday dinners and flower-dusted kisses and someone who knew exactly how he liked his coffee without having to ask. He had lost a love that had been real, that had weathered years of normal challenges, that could have weathered many more if he had not decided it was not enough. And the cruelest irony was that now, alone in his perfect apartment with his successful career and his complete freedom, he would have given anything to go back. To have one more morning waking up to the chaos of 4 kids getting ready for school. To have one more evening sitting across from Audrey at their worn kitchen table. To have one more chance to choose them. But some choices cannot be undone. Some bridges once burned cannot be rebuilt. Kennedy poured himself a whiskey and sat in the dark, listening to the silence, living with the weight of his own decisions. Meanwhile, across town, Audrey's house was alive with sound. Morris was teaching Annie how to play chess at the kitchen table. Noah and his friends were arguing about music in the living room. Ivy was on a video call with her college roommate, laughing about something. Ethan had come home for the weekend and was raiding the refrigerator. Audrey stood in the doorway, watching it all, and felt her heart overflow. This was not the life she had planned when she was 22 and walking down the aisle toward Kennedy. That girl had dreamed of something more conventional, more predictable. This life was messy and complicated and rebuilt from broken pieces. But it was hers, truly hers, built on choices she had made consciously, with eyes wide open. Morris looked up from the chessboard and caught her eye. He smiled, and in that smile was everything she needed. Partnership, respect, genuine love that had been proven through action, not just promised through words. Audrey smiled back. This life was not perfect, but it was real. And it had risen beautifully.